Hey guys, welcome back to Nature's Cadence Farm. And today we're going to be working on the dryer. I've got a problem with the dryer. It's not getting hot enough on the hot cycle. And so I thought it might be the timer or the thermostat or something. I really don't know. So I'm going to get in here and kind of test a few things. I have an idea what it is, but we're going to test and find out if that's actually what it is. So first, so obviously you need to get your dryer out to where you can work on it. And this is a Whirlpool dryer. I'm not going to give you the model number or the model numbers of the parts I'm going to replace because every dryer is different. Okay, even the same model numbers can have different parts in them depending on when it was made. So me giving you part numbers will not help. Anyway, so what we're first going to do is I've got my Milwaukee M12 impact drill here, driver. And I've got a 1/4 inch bit, so most of these things have 1/4 inch screws on the back. So let's get started taking everything off the back. So the first thing you want to check is that the cycles work and everything. In this case, and there's 1,000 things that could be wrong with, well, not really 1,000 things, they're pretty simple. But so what I'm going to do is turn the dryer on, check a few things. Going to make sure we have voltage down here. So the heating element is right here. So these two wires actually go to the heating element on this one. And this is a little thermostat here, and here's an over temperature limit here, and this is called the cycling thermostat. And I believe this is where our problem is, but we're going to find out. And this is just a thermal fuse, this white part right here, thermal fuse. It just opens up if it gets too hot. If something fails, it'll just shut the whole thing down. So we're gonna, since it's heating, and I know it's not the over temperature limits, which is these two on this side, since it's a cycling thermostat, which makes it get hotter or cooler, this has an internal heater in it that heats up on low heat to trick the cycling thermostat to turn on and off. So this heater just turns on and off. That could be working or not or whatever, but really what I'm concerned about is this turning off too fast. So let's take this out. So this is all it is. It's has that little temperature thing on there, and then this is where the heaters hook up to, the little two lines for the heaters, and then here are the contacts. So what I've got here is a whole set, a kit that I bought. It had all 4 of the temperature limits and the cycling thermostat, temperature fuse, and stuff like that in here. So we'll start with this top one. I figured if one was going bad, they were probably all going. Maybe not. Maybe they would have lasted another 15 years. But just gonna pop these out one at a time and change them. So that's just 1/4 inch screw holding that in there, and this looks very similar to what that was, so that's good. I'm going to put that back in here. Oops. Just getting that screw started by hand before I put the drill on there. Alright. Hook these wires back up. And then down here we've got another thermostat. This one's a little bit different. This one just pushes onto the heater. Something to remember while you're working on these things is this heater is only one heater, so there's nothing except for a temperature sensor to tell the heater to turn on and off to maintain an exhaust temperature. Because if your clothes are wet and cold, it's going to take more heat, and this cycling thermostat will cycle less because the clothes are colder and absorbing more of the heat. So something to keep in mind while you're troubleshooting. So I'm just comparing these two, old one, new one. They look very, very similar. Maybe not exactly, but should be okay. And so there's a little hole right there that holds that top hole in, and then the bottom snaps onto the heating element terminal. Because this heating element is, probably used in 100 different dryers. I'm going to try to push that on here with these pliers. It's a little sharp on the edge. There we go. So that's in there nice and tight. And then these two wires clipped on there. That feels a little loose, so I'm going to tighten this down a little bit. Okay. Yep, I got that. And then that goes on there. That's the other side of the heater. So over here we've got our cycling thermostat, and polarity doesn't matter like on the rest of these. It's just turns on and off. And so let's see here, how did this go in? Something like that. So they're cutting costs, they just put a little tab in there for the ear to slide in, and grab your little screw and get that started. And then plug the wires back in how they came off. Thermal fuse, pop the wires off, take the screw out. This just has a little plastic clip on this end that slides down into the metal, and then the hole is where the screw goes in. And be careful with that, it's just plastic. You could probably break that pretty easy with a drill. So just plug the wires back on. Now we're ready to turn it on and see what happens. So I've got it plugged in, and we're going to run it through a few of the cycles. So I'll start off on let's say automatic dry low, and we'll get it started up. So we should be able to check with our multimeter here and our thermometer the output temperature and listen to the. So what I'm going to do is put the multimeter on volts AC, and I'm going to clip onto these two so this wire here is common, and one of these turns on and off. I'm not sure which, this one here. This one will turn on and off because this is the wire that goes over to the other thermostat. So it's about 130 degrees right now. And we still have voltage. It's still on. Hopefully you can see that. I was just thinking we could also check it right here too across these two, because this is, what goes to the heater itself. We're still at about 130. 140. Alright, so it tripped off at about 157 degrees. So let's see, it should cycle. You can see the voltage here drop. That's just millivolts. It's not actually, you know, 167 volts. You can see it says millivolts over there. So let's wait for it to turn back on. And I can hear it click over here. So our temperature has dropped down to 127 now. So let's watch here and see when it turns back on. Still hanging around 120. Alright, it just tripped back on and we were right at about 100 degrees. So let's see where it turns off again. Alright, it turned off that time about 147. Kind of, you can see the voltage is off again. Yep. So it's probably trying to keep it about 130, you know, average or so, 120 maybe, before it turns on and off. Let's turn it over to high heat and see how the high heat works. So it took it a minute to get itself turned on, but now the heater is on again. So it's on up there at about 153 now. So let's see how the little cycling thermostat cycles on high heat. Alright, there it just tripped off and we were right at 150. So let's see how fast it turns back on. Down to 120. Alright, so that kicked on at 120 where the other one was, you know, on low heat was kicking on at about 90, I think is what it was. Maybe around 100. And now it's heating back up again. Yeah. So there it's at 160. It should be clicking off here really soon. $164. Still on. And I can tell it's it's way hotter here on high heat than it is on low heat. So. It stays on a lot longer. Yeah, there's 163. And it just turned off. So it just turned off at 164.5, somewhere around in there. Alright. Well, there goes the repair on the dryer. Hopefully this was helpful for you, and you know, you learned a little something. I didn't go crazy in depth, but generally when your heating element is working and has, you know, it is heating, but your high heat is going out too fast, usually it's the cycling thermostat, and you know, that's just what you change, or at least what you start with, because they're really cheap. So so I've got this unplugged again and kind of letting it cool off, but I'm going to go ahead and put the cover back on. It goes back on the same way it came off. I'm not going to bore you with how to put it back on. And anyway, so thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.